Are you starting to feel that little tickle in your throat and really run down, like maybe you're catching something? Well, it is that time of year again. It is cold and flu season, and I'm here with you today to share some tips and tricks from the traditional Chinese medicine perspective on how you can not only prevent yourself from catching the cold, flu, or COVID-19 that's going around right now, and if you happen to have caught it, well, we're going to share with you all of the tips and tricks in how to treat your cold or flu so you can get back to your life and fully recover quickly. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Vanessa Eberts. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and I practice here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, out of my clinic, Blue Frog Wellness. If you haven't already done so, please do hit that like and subscribe to the channel so we can share TCM wisdom with many more people. I use these exact strategies to prevent myself from catching the cold or flu or COVID-19 that happens to be ramping up right now, as well as when I do actually get sick with a cold or flu, these are the very strategies that I use in treating my own condition and getting me back on the road to recovery quickly and completely. So before we can jump into the tips and strategies on how to prevent or treat a cold or flu in Chinese medicine, we need to share a little bit more about the perspective that we see from the traditional Chinese medicine or TCM view. So really, Western medicine will be really fantastic at isolating the variable. What pathogen is actually trying to enter your body or has entered your body, right? If you've got a cold, maybe you've got influenza. Or if you've got the stomach flu, maybe you've got norovirus, right? So you've got a virus, a bacteria, something that's invading your system, and Western medicine will treat that in terms of how do we kill that pathogen? How do we eradicate that from your body? Which is one half of really how we see things in traditional Chinese medicine. So not only are we not just only looking for how can we beat the pathogen that has now invaded the host or invaded you, but we also want to look at what's your constitution, right? What is your immune system functioning at right now? How does that look? What kind of things can you be doing or improving upon to build more resilience, more defensive chi or defensive energy, right? So that we can protect ourselves and have a nice, strong protective barrier to not letting those pathogens in to begin with, right? So we're always looking for you within your environment. So it's not just about what is the pathogen coming at you. It is more about how strong is your chi and how resilient are you currently in the moment versus what's coming at you. So we really want to take a two-prong approach into healing that. And what we really want to do is make sure that we can strengthen your chi, we can strengthen your wei qi, your defensive qi, which is essentially your immune system, right? Your protective outer barrier so things don't get in. Secondly, what we want to do is eradicate that pathogen. And we see pathogens a little bit differently in Chinese medicine than we do in Western medicine, and I'll explain how. So we first need to point out that traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, is really founded on an agrarian culture or civilization, meaning that they really focused on sort of this idea of farming and cultivating the land and growing your crops and harvesting what you sow. So really the whole philosophy or the whole framework of TCM is predicated on that. So when we look at it, we've got a few different things at play here. We definitely take a look at the 5 elements. So fire, earth, wood, metal, and water, and how those relate to different organs in our system, but also how they relate to one another and how they go around cyclically generating each other, and some will end up controlling others. But just know that there are the 5 elements that we're looking at. With that, we have causes of disease in Chinese medicine that are loosely based in that sort of thinking. So we have things that can actually invade our body. So we always see any sort of cold or flu as an invasion, and it'll be by one of the 4 or 5 evils. So we've got wind evil, we've got heat evil, we have dry evil, we have damp evil, and we have cold evil. So any one of those things can enter our body. So when we think about that, there are many different manifestations of that, right? And this is why we have essentially 2 different types of colds. So you might come down with a cold where you are cold to the bone, you've got runny nose, your body's aching, You don't really have a fever. You're not really sweating, but you just cannot warm up. Well, that's the cold cold, right? That's the cold type of cold. So the wind cold invasion. So that means to eradicate that, we want to actually warm things up. We want to push that back out. We want to eradicate the cold. Now you might have the opposite of that. So you might know people that every single time they get a cold or a flu, they have a crazy fever. They are sweating. Maybe they get nosebleeds. And on top of that, they might have some heartburn and digestion, something going on there because too much heat in their system, right? So you got to do the opposite. You want to cool that down. And if you happen to pick the wrong treatment method for getting rid of your cold, it will make it worse. So if you're treating a cold and you start drinking cold fluids like orange juice, or you decide you're going to go outside and it's a cold, windy day, you're going to make it worse. Whereas if you heat it up, you will push it out and really balance your pattern. Whereas if you have the heat condition and you add more heat, you're eating spicy food, you got your big bowl of pho and you have ginger, cardamom, cinnamon tea, you're gonna make it worse. You're gonna make it last longer. You're gonna make that pathogen enhanced, so it actually does a stronger number on you, and you're not gonna get over it very quickly. So this is why it's very important to understand the perspective that traditional Chinese medicine takes when we do see a cold or flu. And just one comment on that note is COVID-19 is really often seen as a wind-heat invasion because it almost always has a fever component to it. So anytime there's fever and sweating, that's a heat condition, and we definitely want to eradicate or clear that heat. And of course, you may have all experienced this. The wind cold can transform into wind heat and vice versa. So once you catch the cold, it might shift in what it looks like and what is happening at the time. And that is your indication of how to treat it. So you might start off with a cold flu that has a heavy fever, you're sweating, and then a day later, all of a sudden you are cold to the bone, you just can't warm up. So whatever is present at the moment is what you want to treat. So if you're feeling cold, if you've got cold symptoms, warm it up. If you have heat symptoms, you want to cool it down. That's the very gist of it. So just remember, we're really trying to find the balance between these two entities. We have you in your environment. So again, we are looking to strengthen, tonify, nourish your immune system, your defenses, what we know as your Zhang Qi, which is your upright Qi or your true Qi. And really that is what the heart of your immune system is, versus what's coming at you, which is known as Zai Qi. And Zai Qi is one of the evils. So is it wind? Is it cold? Is it dampness? Is it dryness? Is it heat? Right? So when we know how to strengthen who you are and your upright Qi versus what's coming at you, that's when you have the best ability to prevent and treat any sort of cold or flu coming at you. All right, so tips for preventing yourself from catching a cold, flu, or COVID-19. Really, what we've just talked about is that we really want to strengthen that Zhang Qi of yours. So many ways we can do this. Of course, eating a proper diet full of healthy vegetables that are nourishing, full of zinc, full of vitamin C, having a variety of different foods coming into your system. Of course, or avoiding the junk foods, the dairies, which are really damp forming and they obstruct things and they kind of congest your system and will add to any kind of mucus that you've already got going on. So really a healthy, clean diet that is full of root vegetables, full of cooked foods, so not just your raw carrot sticks, but maybe something in a broth or steamed vegetables. Chicken is fantastic as always. Soups, stews, oatmeals, porridges, any sort of thing that you think of as a hearty, warming food choice is always going to help you build your Zhang Qi. So on top of that, there are several different types of herbal formulas you can take to tonify the different elements of your upright Qi or your Zhang Qi. Most notable would be Gan Mao Ling. So Gan Mao Ling formula is a patent formula that's been around for many years, and you can find this almost anywhere. In any of the Asian supermarkets, Chinatown, you can probably find it online. Definitely you can find it here in the clinic. We always have a healthy dose of Ganmao on because this is one of the best preventative formulas that is safe to take for any length of time leading up. So if you want to take it for a couple weeks in September, October, that's totally fine. It's not harmful to your kidneys, your liver, or anything like that. But it will really do a good number of boosting up your chi so that you are more resilient and can block out whatever's coming at you, whatever's circulating in the environment at the time. And now something else that you can absolutely do is ensure that you are getting enough rest and enough exercise. So, those don't just land in Western medicine. That is definitely a lifestyle approach we would take in traditional Chinese medicine as well. So making sure that you are getting, some exercise of some type, whether that's going for a walk, maybe you go for runs, maybe you like to go to the gym, hop on a stationary bike or go for a bike ride or swim. Any of those things on a regular basis will help you to nourish your chi in general. But because it gets the circulation moving, it moves your liver energy or your liver chi. It helps to detox the body. It helps to get oxygen and new blood flow into all of your tissues, your organs, your cells. So that's what we really need. So don't forget about getting exercise. 30 minutes a day of some type of heart rate increasing activity will be wonderful for you. And then of course, trying to get as much rest as you can, especially as we transition seasons into the fall and then from fall into winter. You want to make sure that as much as possible, you take downtime, you take naps, you read a book, you unwind before bed, and that you get as many hours of sleep as you can. So 8 to 9 hours of sleep would be ideal. And lastly, if you've ever been into the clinic, you have always heard me say this, bundle up this time of year especially. So don't go running outside if it's a windy, cold, damp kind of day, especially with just a t-shirt on. Make sure that you bundle up and that you are keeping your neck and shoulders protected, because essentially the back of us is the bladder line here. And the bladder line really does not only influence the bladder, of course, but it will also have many different points that are indicated for different organs. So in the upper areas of the bladder line, we have organs that reflect your respiratory system, right? We have heart, we have pericardium, we have lungs. But there are also additional points that are well known for pushing out a wind-cold invasion or a wind invasion in general and tonifying. So if you leave these exposed, let's say you just went to the sauna and now you're running out to your car from the gym and you just threw a t-shirt on and it's a windy, cold day. Wind is gonna get in there. Remember, that's one of the evils. You've opened up the pores and now you're allowing that wind or the dampness or the cold or the heat even, depending where you live, to get in there and really do a number on your bladder meridian, which will definitely cause an invasion to happen. So as much as possible, make sure you're wearing a hoodie, a scarf, something that's going to protect especially your back and neck area as the seasons change and as we move into cooler weather. All right, so when we do think about that dynamic at play between the evil chi or the Zei chi that's trying to attack you and your upright chi, your good Zeng chi, we just want to think about one additional thing we can do, which is to put a bit of a buffer between these two things. So you're probably already doing much of this, but of course we can wash our hands, right? Proper hand washing will definitely help out here. Keeping yourself at a distance, especially from those you know are already sick, right? So if you don't have to go to the crowded mall on the Saturday afternoon, maybe you choose to go on a Tuesday evening, and maybe that's a little bit less crowded, there's less congestion, there's less pathogens in the actual environment within the mall. So use your own discretion and factor in, is this a good decision for me and my immune system, my ability to fight off anything that's coming? And if you're totally comfortable with it, then go ahead. Maybe you want to put on a mask. Again, totally up to you. Just know that keeping that buffer between the two will always be to your benefit in terms of maintaining your upright chi. And with that being said, I get asked so many times, what supplements do I take this time of year? So I'll tell you personally, I don't do a whole lot because I already eat a whole food diet that has a variety of vegetables within it that contain a lot of the vitamins and nutrients that our immune systems really need. And really, when we look at the TCM requisite for the diet that I've already mentioned, we're eating root vegetables, we're eating all sorts of different varieties of vegetables in there, and soups and stews and porridge and oatmeals. Those things are already chock full of the vitamins that you should be ingesting to have a healthy immune system. But I do like to ensure I'm getting enough vitamin C, vitamin D, and also zinc, as all three of those are known to really impact your immune system in a good way. So I'm curious, do you happen to have a proven preventative measure that you take this time of year for colds and flus to try to ward them off? Maybe clove of garlic here. I know my Baba used to say, eat a garlic sandwich. That's one of the best ways to treat a cold and obviously prevent a cold. Probably because people just don't want to come near you after you've eaten a whole clove of garlic. But if you do have something that works for you, maybe like a lot of lemon, or a concoction of cayenne and ginger and cinnamon and lemon and whatever that is, I'm curious to see. Just put it in the comments below what your proven method is for preventing cold and flu. We'd love to hear it. So perhaps you got on these preventative strategies a little bit too late, or your Zheng Qi was just too low. You've been chronically overworked, you're stressed out, maybe you're not eating right or sleeping well, or getting any sort of exercise, and the door has now opened up and that evil Qi has come in, and now you've got a full-blown cold or flu or COVID-19. Here are the tips and strategies for how to treat it. So number one is rest. And of course that seems just obvious, right? As we are under the invasion of any sort of wind, cold, wind, heat, wind, dampness, whatever it is, our body is trying to fight back, right? So we have our Zheng Qi that is trying to kick out your Zei Qi. And really that combat between the two, going back and forth, is really how we see shivering when you get a cold or a flu, right? So the act of shivering is those two energies going back and forth against each other, and whichever is the strongest one will win. So if the Zei Qi is stronger than your own upright Qi, it's going to get in, it's going to settle in, it's going to stay there a little while. But if your upright Qi or Zheng Qi is really nice and strong, and you fortify that as you go when you are sick, you're able to now push back and kick that back out. So really, we're trying to do these two things. We are trying to fortify the upright Qi and eliminate or kick out or expel the wind that has gotten in. And resting up is the best way to fortify that Zheng Qi. And number two is the use of Chinese herbal formulas. So here you really want to enlist the help of a licensed acupuncturist in the United States, a registered acupuncturist or a doctor of acupuncture here in Alberta, but someone who is well versed in traditional Chinese medical herbal formulas that can really help assist you here. Because again, we need to be very cognizant about which type of evil has gotten in, what stage is it at, and how can we best help to expel that. When you get the exact formula for the pattern that you have, you kick it out really, really quickly. It's very effective. Now, there's many different formulas out there. Again, many different patent formulas that I recommend in my own practice. And for example, if we have a wind heat invasion, again, you've got the fever, the sweating, you just are so hot, and maybe you've gotten a little bit of body aches, but nothing too crazy. Well, we want to be able to cool you down. One of the best formulas that has been around for many, many years is Yin Chao San or Yin Chao formula. So that one can also be used a little bit as a preventative, but it's really known to clear heat. So at the first sign of a sore throat, of a fever, of feeling hot and sweaty, you want to get on some Yin Chao San as quick as possible, because that will clear that heat. Now, if you happen to have the opposite and you are cold to the bone, your nose is running, you're just body ache central, you've got a headache, you just feel like you cannot warm up to save your life, right? Well, we want to warm you up. So in that case, we would want to use something like cinnamon twig formula, which will have warming herbs in there, as well as things that expel, release the exterior, and really work on the lungs as well. So we've got that. We've got many different combinations of both, because just like the pathogen turning from hot to cold or even back to hot again, We can have some latent pathogens that just seem to stick around, where you are alternating between getting really cold and then really hot and then really cold and really hot. And that's a Xiao-Yang disorder that we want to treat separately from the heat and the cold, because that's a different type of entity. It's just basically trapped, where it's not fully in your system, but it's not fully out of your system either. So we need specific herbs for that. So do trust your acupuncturist to give you the proper information and offer you the best herbal formula for exactly where you're at. Of course, within Blue Frog Wellness, we have many of these formulas, so feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I'd be happy to walk you through which one would be the most preferred for you and get that to you as soon as possible. So the third thing that we can do is enlist the use of acupuncture, gua sha, and cupping modalities in order to expel that zei qi, expel the wind, cold wind, heat, wind, dampness that has now settled into your system, and also fortify your zheng qi. So we want to look at using acupuncture points that really help the immune system, points on the stomach channel, on the large intestine channel, on the lung channel, on the bladder channel, and on the kidney channel. All of those will be very beneficial. And especially, like we mentioned, the points on the upper back that are known to release the pathogens that have now seeped in, especially affecting the lungs. So in addition to acupuncture, as I mentioned, we can use cupping. So cupping on the neck, the upper back, is going to do the same thing. It's going to open up those pores and release that exterior, release the pathogen that's now got in there to be out. It will also really help any mucus that you've got going on in your lungs. If we do cupping on your back, we can actually relieve a lot of the congestion that you're feeling in your chest and your lung area from any, fluid that's in there that's caused directly from the cold or flu. In addition to that, we have a technique called gua sha, which you may have heard recently. Seems to be a very trendy topic right now. You can get a gua sha tool online. Here in the clinic, I personally use a Chinese soup spoon and really just use some motion medicine muscle rub. And what we're just doing is essentially putting that on, and we're using light strokes to lightly scrape the skin. And again, what that's doing is opening up those pores. It's activating all of those organs on the bladder meridian and areas that reflect the lungs and expelling the pathogens themselves, and opening that up so that they do release, they do go out. Now, once you've done that, you will definitely hear me tell you, make sure you bundle up for the rest of the day. Don't let those pathogens back in once we've expelled them. So at the earliest instances that you recognize you might be getting a cold or a flu, I highly recommend you book in for an acupuncture session. Get some cupping, some sliding cupping, some gua sha, and definitely some acupuncture to quickly send that evil qi back out. That'll be your best bet. If you can get in the very early stages, either on herbs or in for acupuncture, you have the best chance of sending it back out where perhaps it doesn't take hold at all. So your slightest symptom, give me a call, book in. I'd be happy to help you resolve that issue before it gets worse and lingers around for much longer than we really want it to. And on that note, it seems to be that the latest variant of COVID-19 seems to be having a little bit of a different presentation. And many of my patients have reported in the last few weeks that they suddenly came down with extreme fatigue and a really bad headache, and shortly thereafter a bout of nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, followed by all the respiratory symptoms the next day or in the couple days after this strange episode of not feeling quite yourself and then having this crazy nausea and diarrhea and vomiting where people think they actually have food poisoning. So if that happens to be the case for you, anytime you've got any sort of nausea for whatever reason, cold, flu, stomach flu, maybe food poisoning, maybe you ate too much, maybe you are on an airplane or you're seasick or you're pregnant, you can definitely use the acupuncture point pericardium 6. So how you locate pericardium 6 is basically it's just on your wrist, and it'll be 2 inches below the wrist, right on the top of your tendons here. So all your finger tendons, if you give your hand a squeeze, you'll see those come to light. And you just are going to go right in the middle of that. And I would recommend digging your thumb into that and really massaging that. So really make that ache. And really what you're looking for is to almost have your hand go numb where it feels like you're cutting off the blood supply, because you're really stimulating that. Some of that is that you're actually cutting off the blood supply. Right underneath this point is your median nerve, so you're also kind of getting to that, but you're really stimulating pericardium 6, which will descend the stomach chi. So instead of your stomach chi coming up, having hiccups and vomiting, it's going back down, which is where we want it to be going. So you can rub that for a few minutes, up to 20 minutes at a time. It doesn't matter how long you do it for. You can switch arms. You can have 2 different people working on both of your wrists for you, but just keep in mind 2 inches above your wrist, right on top of the middle of the tendons there, and really give it a good massage. That will definitely help any bouts of nausea and vomiting. Now, if you're really struggling with a lot of sinus congestion, sinus headaches, pressure, a lot of mucus that is located in the sinus cavity, one of the best ways that I know to break that up is with the use of a nasal steamer. So you can buy these pretty much at any London Drugs, any sort of department store, even Shoppers Drug Mart will have these. And basically there's a facial steamer version of this. This one has the nose cone on it. You're going to fill it with water, and I recommend doing 1 to 2 drops of either eucalyptus oil, essential oil, or peppermint essential oil, but no more than that. If you put more than a couple of drops in there, it's going to burn your eyes. So you definitely don't want to do more than that. However, those essential oils are really known to open up the sinuses and really break up the mucus that's there. So you basically just get that steaming and put your face over it. And all you're going to do is inhale deeply through your nose. And I would do this for probably 20 minutes until you kind of feel things opening up. You can blow your nose a bunch of times and get that to flush out. And I would probably do that 3 times a day. Whenever I'm congested like that and have a sinus cold or sinusitis, that's definitely the best way that I know to open that up. Now, once you get it opened up, you can utilize a neti pot, which will flush out your nasal cavities. You can find many videos online how to use a neti pot. You can either buy the saline solution packages for this or make your own. Again, you can find that online. And lastly, you can also use a nasal inhaler stick. So you can buy, this one's from Sage. This is called Fortify. You buy this in a pack that has sort of an immune packaging with it. Unfortunately, you can't buy this individually. I really wish you could, because I give this to everybody. But you can buy the Vicks Vapor Rub sticks. You can buy nasal inhalers by different brands in the drugstore. And really all it is those 2 ingredients, eucalyptus and mint, and you just inhale it. And that will also continue to open up the sinuses, keep them open for longer. Just makes you feel better. You're able to breathe. So that's really helpful for any kind of sinus congestion, sinus mucus that's in there. And of course, you want to make sure that you're staying away from any mucus forming foods. So stay away from dairy, especially ice cream, because it's cold dairy, right? So that's only going to make the mucus stronger. So we definitely don't want to have any additional mucus in our diet. It's probably why you don't crave milk or milk products when you are sick, right? You want more broth and more soups and things like that to open up, steam yourself, and clean things out. And on that note, if you wish to use any essential oils to further help yourself and your respiratory system, you can always use a diffuser next to your bed, where you're using either rosemary, peppermint, spearmint, eucalyptus. You could be using the thieves oil. You could use the immune one from Sage Wellness as well. You could use thyme. All of those are really well known to opening up the respiratory system, opening up the alveoli, clearing the mucus, and just helping soothe what's going on. So those would be effective. And then of course you can use Vicks Vapor Rub. So even if you're a grown adult, it works the same on kids as adults. So you can put that on your chest or on your upper back to open and expel the mucus that's there. It does the same thing. You've got essential oils that are really opening up the nasal passages and allowing that clearing to happen, allowing that fluid to get out of the sinuses so that you start feeling better. And if you wish to use Tiger Balm, that would work in much the same way. You can definitely do that. However, I will caution you on this one thing. Do not use the extra strength Tiger Balm. That one's got cinnamon in it. It's very hot, so we don't want to add more heat to your system. We just want to open things up. So do not use the extra strength Tiger Balm. Trust me, you will regret that if you do. So of course, the fourth step that we need to be paying attention to in terms of treating a cold or a flu is to use diet as a form of treatment, as we mentioned at the very beginning of the video. So we do want to stay hydrated, so make sure you have as much water as you possibly can. Make that water room temperature, and if you can get a little bit of lemon into it, or even lemon and a pinch of sea salt, that would be wonderful because that can absorb into the system. You don't realize how much fluid you actually lose when you have a sinus congestion or sinus cold, and even just from sweating. So make sure you stay hydrated, and then make sure that you're balancing the pattern that you have. So again, if you've got that wind heat condition, you've got a fever, a sore throat, you are sweating profusely, you're just icky all over, right? So you want to cool down. So you want cooling foods. You want to have orange juice. You want to have watermelon, cucumber, things that are cooling in nature. Peppermint tea, even though it's a tea, is a cooling herb. So have as much peppermint tea as you possibly can get. The David's Tea Cold 911 is essentially peppermint and eucalyptus. So that would be a really fantastic tea for you there. And again, orange juice because it's cold in nature. Just anything that can cool you down. So avoid adding spice to your food, avoid ginger, avoid cinnamon, avoid cloves. So avoid all of those warming spices, sriracha. As much as, it might feel good to get a big bowl of pho or a big bowl of chicken soup that you add a lot of spice to, when you have the wind heat condition, just cool it down. That's the best way to go. So stick with cooling foods and herbs there. Now, if you've got the wind cold condition, you want to warm yourself back up. So you want to have ginger and cinnamon and honey and things that are very warming in nature. So here's where you could have a little bit of spice to your faux soups, or any sort of thing that's going to add a little bit of heat will help to push that out. Of course, soups of all type are thermally warm, so they're going to be warm just by ingesting them, but maybe you want to have something that is a little bit more of a curry, or has a little bit more heat to it in some way, a chili or a stew of some type. Lemon ginger tea, the Yogi brand lemon ginger tea, is absolutely amazing. I recommend brewing a double bag of this in a big mug with a nice scoop of honey in there and a good squeeze of lemon juice. If you wish, you can also add a little bit of whiskey. You could add either bourbon or rye whiskey, or just a regular Scotch whiskey to it. I highly recommend a bourbon though, because it's a little bit more impactful. So I actually use Buffalo Trace when I make a hot toddy for myself, and that's really only just once. Once I do that once, I get enough sweating going on and my heat starts to rise, I feel warmer. That's me expelling the actual pathogen. So just know you want to warm things up if you're feeling chilly, and if it flips the very next day to the opposite, then do the opposite. So however you're feeling is what you want to be looking for in terms of what kind of dietary therapy you're going to use. And the fifth and last tip or strategy that I have for you, I can't really be sure that this is actually a traditional Chinese medicine principle, but it's laughter. So as you're on the couch, resting and getting some sleep and recuperating, try to find something funny on the TV, right? YouTube videos or a movie that you think is really funny, something that really gets a good belly laugh going. I don't know how, but it definitely does lighten the load. Maybe it's moving your chi or in some way enhancing your immune system just by laughing at things. So me personally, I love to watch old reruns of Three's Company. That was one of my all-time favorite shows. I love the physical comedy that John Ritter has. So I'll throw on literally a DVD of one of the seasons and just let that play out, and I'll be, maybe I'm reading and in and out of sleep or whatever, but I swear it makes me feel so much better. So I recommend you find something that makes you laugh and try to do that as you're recovering. Well, there you have it. These are all of the tips and strategies that I highly recommend you look at adopting into your own regiment in order to prevent or to treat a cold or a flu this season. I hope this video has given you a little bit of insight into the perspective that traditional Chinese medicine holds and how we view human health, and how we can really use the environment and all the elements around us to better protect ourselves and better treat ourselves when we do get sick. So if you need me at all and you're looking for maybe some herbal formulas, or you have some general questions, feel free to email me. My email is vanessa@bluefrogwellness.ca. Or if you're looking to book an appointment here in Calgary, you'll find the link down below in the description for my online booking site. I look forward to seeing you all soon, and I wish you a very happy and healthy fall season, and I hope that you're able to keep that Zei Qi, the evil Qi, away with these new strategies. If you found this video helpful, please do share it with others. And if you don't mind to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, that will only enable more people to come across the wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.